welcome to my video. If you didn't already read from the title, today I'm going to be talking about how I found out I'm pregnant. I wanted to sit down and film this video because I know there's a lot of women out there who are wondering if they are also pregnant. I do have to say that I actually bled for 5 days, and then 2 days after I got a positive pregnancy test. So originally I didn't think I was pregnant, but you'll come to find out in this video how I did realize I was pregnant, and then maybe you'll reconsider taking that pregnancy test too. So my husband and I, we met in 2020, early 2020. We fell in love pretty quickly, and we knew that we wanted to have a family, start a family of our own. I just knew that Alex would be a great dad, and I knew I wanted like a future with him. So pretty quickly after knowing him, I decided that I wanted to get off birth control. So June of 2020, I decided to get my birth control out. Alex and I, we weren't able to conceive right away. It took many months, so we didn't let it put a hold on our lives. Alex and I, we wound up getting engaged, and then we got married, and then we moved to Idaho and we bought a house. But through all of that, like, one thing led to another, and we actually did wind up conceiving. The point at which we actually did conceive, I was feeling so down and hopeless that I really didn't think that it was gonna happen. So I actually had an appointment to help with fertility treatments, and it turned out that we actually didn't meet that appointment, because the same month that I scheduled the fertility appointment, we actually were able to conceive. So that would be January of 2022. It took us a whole year and a half, and that month I actually was not looking for pregnancy symptoms because I was so convinced that we have too many issues. Something's wrong. We need fertility treatments because we're not able to do this on our own. But we were still active. We weren't preventing. The first day of my last period was January 2nd. And according to Google, the most probable dates that I conceived were between January 20th to January 24th. We were only intimate January 20th and January 21st. Then, let's say January 20th was the day that I conceived. So that means like the 21st would have been 1 DPO, the 22nd would have been 2 DPO, and so on. I'm also looking at my Clue app because that's where I tracked all my symptoms. So January 20th, which is, I guess, the day I conceived, I noted that I was starving and exhausted, and I had a headache, which, being exhausted, having a headache, and starving are, I guess, pretty typical of just my regular like ovulation. I don't think it was that abnormal. And then the day after, I noticed that I had very watery mucus, so watery. I actually took a picture of it because I thought it was abnormal for myself. And then right-sided cramping. January 26th, so that would have been 6 DPO, 6 days past ovulation. I had cramps, and my fluid or cervical mucus was egg white, which for me, when my cervical mucus is egg white, it usually just indicates that I'm a week away from having my period. So for me, the egg white fluid cervical mucus wasn't abnormal. The cramps, on the other hand, probably should have been an indicator for me to acknowledge that it's way too late in the month for me to be having cramps. I usually only have cramps like a day or two prior to before my period starts. So January 27th, that would be 7 days DPO. I had a lot of high emotions, more cramping, and tender breasts. January 29th. That would be 9 DPO. Oh my gosh, I had spotting. So first of all, January 27th, when I had the cramping, now I know that that was implantation cramping. And then the spotting that I had January 29th, I should have known that that was implantation bleeding. So I actually didn't think I was pregnant because I thought I had my period. So January 29th through February 5th, I had bleeding. Consistent bleeding for 6 days. So for 6 days, I had bleeding, and I noted here that it was light. One thing that that was abnormal was that I didn't have any blood clots, and typically when you have a period, you have blood clots. I noted that, but I didn't think too much of it because during that time, Alex and I were traveling from Idaho to go visit his family back in California, and so I thought the stress of traveling was what was preventing me from having a normal period, and that I would just have another normal period after this one, because prior to conceiving, I actually had irregular periods, so that wouldn't be something abnormal for me. February 5th was 5 days of spotting. That February 5th also lands on a Saturday, and that Saturday we actually went to Universal Studios. I thought I was on the clear. I thought I was on my period. The last thing on my mind was that I was pregnant. So I had no idea at that time that I was pregnant. The only thing that was really funny about that day was that all the roller coasters did make me feel nauseous, and I was feeling like famished, like I wanted to eat so much, but it kind of didn't click. And even for my little brother, my youngest brother, he's 15, he made a joke because I got off a roller coaster. I said, I'm feeling nauseous, and he said, are you pregnant? He was actually correct. I was so embarrassed when he said that, because he said that in front of my sister-in-laws, and I thought I was like really embarrassed at the time, but he was actually correct. I was pregnant. Anyways, we went to Universal Studios, and then the day after we traveled back to Idaho to our home, and the whole trip there I just couldn't stop eating. I wouldn't stop eating. Like, I was eating everything, and I was like, after this trip I'm gonna gain so much weight. Like, every time I go on a trip, I don't know why, but I always eat so much, and I felt like this trip wasn't any different. Like, I'm just eating way too much. Even in my period app, I wrote starving, high appetite, and tender breast. The tender breast after the 5 days of spotting should have been a red flag for me. That should have been an obvious sign, because I never have tender breast after my period already ended. Usually my breast will be tender prior to my period, and then during my period it gets a lot better, and at the end of the period the breasts aren't tender anymore. They go back to normal. That's how it usually is for me. But February 6th, I had tender breasts. February 7th, we're back in Idaho. Sorry about that. If things look different, it's because my battery died and I had to change it out for a new one. So the angle might be a little bit different. Anyways, where were we? February 7th. February 7th was the day that I found out I was pregnant. I knew I wasn't pregnant. I convinced myself I was not pregnant. It was impossible. I just had my period. So I went ahead and took an ovulation test, just because my ovulation cycle is also very irregular and I never know when I'm ovulating. So I just said, screw it, like, why not just take one today? and I got an extremely positive ovulation test. Very odd. I have heard of people asking the question, can you check if you're pregnant with an ovulation test? And I didn't understand why they would do that. That doesn't make any sense to me. But I took an ovulation test and it was an extremely solid line. I'm not sure why that happened. I don't really know the science behind it, why that happened, but it did. Because we had a strong positive ovulation line, I felt like encouraged and excited to like try again. So Alex and I, we tried, and then after that I had to go to work. It was only a 4-hour shift, but on the way there, something strange started happening. It took me half an hour to get dressed and then half an hour to drive to work. But by the time that I got to work, I had extreme cramps, very extreme cramps. And I was pretty sure they were caused by Alex and I trying. And that was very peculiar for me. That's never really happened for me. And I remember from watching a YouTube video that women who were pregnant got cramps after doing the deed. So that stood out to me. And I was like, I thought it was a little abnormal, but I didn't think I was pregnant. I still didn't think I was. So I just went to work 4 hours, and in those 4 hours I was starving. I was so hungry, and I was like so hungry I was getting irritable. To be honest, now thinking about it, I didn't think you could get so hungry so soon after conceiving or so early during your pregnancy. But yeah, that did happen. So after work I went home, and Alex's sister was staying with us, so she decided to make some food for us, and she made some tacos, and she burnt the taco meat. She burnt the carne asada, which I was so hungry I didn't care. Like, I was like, I don't care, it's a little bit burnt. I started eating it, and I'm not a picky person, but it was really hard to eat it. Usually when I'm that hungry, I don't care if it's burnt, I don't care if it doesn't taste that great. Like, I'm gonna scarf it down and then worry about it later. Like, I'll eat anything. But in that situation, it was hard to eat it, and I was like eating it slowly. And on top of that, and this is what told me there's a chance I was pregnant, there was an avocado on the taco. And I bit into the taco and I ate it and I swallowed it, and I could feel the avocado going down my throat, and I was so repulsed by the cold of the avocado and the texture of the avocado. And I love avocados, and I didn't understand in what universe I would be grossed out by the texture and the coolness of an avocado. Like, that never happens for me. So that food aversion was what finally convinced me to take a pregnancy test. I took a pregnancy test, and I told myself it would be so nice if there was 2 lines, but I know it's not gonna happen. I remember looking over, and a second line was starting to pick up, and I just smiled and I was like, that would be so nice. Just imagine if there was 2 lines, like how great that would be. But I just kept using the restroom, and I ignored it, and I told myself to wait, just wait till the test is done, and then you can take a look at it and see that there's only 1 line, like I convinced myself there would be. I finished using the restroom, I started washing my hands, and I look over and I'm like, that has never happened before. I have never seen a second line before, not that clear and not that soon. So I knew I was pregnant, and that feeling was the best feeling ever. I held it up and I looked at it, and there was a very obvious faint line, like a second faint line. And I've had faint lines before, but they will usually come an hour after the test, 2 hours after the test, and make me second guess myself. And usually it's just an evap line. And if there is a line, usually it's with the clear blue test. I've noticed that those will have a lot of errors. So the type of test that I took, I've never ever had a situation where a faint line would pop up, because it was just so accurate. And so I just knew that this second line was a clear indicator that I was pregnant. It was the best day of 2022 so far, and we have so many more great days of 2022 left. Our baby's due in October, and I cannot wait. We still don't know the gender. Right now I'm 13 weeks and 5 days. I'll be 14 weeks and 2 days. I don't really have a bump right now, but I will show you what the bump looks like. There's not much. There isn't that much going on. To me, I just think I look bloated. I think I just look bloated. So I'm glad to finally get back on track with filming YouTube videos. I'm gonna share my experience because I want to remember this forever, and I'm so excited to get to document this. Anyways, thank you for listening to my story. Maybe this will give some clues and indicators of what you need to look out for as well, so that you can decide whether you need to take a pregnancy test and get that BFP, the big fat positive. Because even though you did bleed, as long as there wasn't blood clots, there is still a chance that you could be pregnant too. Thank you for watching.